Claude or GPT and it becomes part of this big AI brain and part of its knowledge. Now, if I'm in marketing, all I'm doing all day is talking about how great my products are, how great my company is, what a good place this is to work, how the things we do can change your lives. Like, don't you want that in there?
GPT or Claude or whatever. It just gets the first things that come up on the internet, and it's super generic crap. Companies are buying these things and think it does all without thinking, oh, you actually have to think about it strategically about why I'm using this and how to use it better.
You're listening to the Transformed with Data podcast with Graham Crawford, CEO of Crawford Macmillan. Graham is here to share something he's genuinely passionate about. He's going to show you how data can completely change the outcome for both people and businesses. In each episode, he sits down with real people who've done incredible things with data. But don't worry, these aren't your typical dry case studies. Graham and his guests bring you stories about leaders and innovators who saw something in their data that sparked a brand new reality. These are changes that tore through entire industries, upended company cultures, and sometimes even changed lives. So whether you're a data enthusiast or just curious about how to find the truth in your data, join Graham as he discovers how data becomes more than just numbers. It becomes the spark that ignites real, meaningful change. Let's get started. Thanks for listening.
Most data strategies die in Google Docs, buried by misalignment, jargon, and the chaos of business reality. Dylan Anderson is on a mission to change that. As head of data strategy at Profusion and creator of the Data Ecosystem newsletter, Dylan helps organizations stop talking about data and start building systems that actually deliver. His work translating complex AI and analytics into business outcomes has earned him a nomination for AI Strategist of the Year at the Agentic Innovation Summit. With 7,000 plus subscribers and a cult following amongst data leaders, including me, Dylan's writing cuts through the noise, showing exactly how to bridge the gap between architecture and action. Today, we're getting into why most data strategies fail and how to build one that sticks, the emerging role of AI in data organizations, and how to turn technical vision into commercial reality. Ever struggled with one of those, or to get buy-in, or to build momentum with your data? This one's for you. Here's Dylan Anderson.
Hi, everybody. Good to be on the show.
Welcome. Good to have you. Good to have you, Dylan. Good to chat with you again from a kind of opposite countries or opposite continents position. So you were just telling me, how is London this time of year?
It is very hot right now, but it is beautiful, and London summers are awesome because there's so much to do in London. There's so much going on. I've got like 4 data events next week, and that's not even including my other non-data related events. So it's keeps you busy, but when the weather's nice and it's not rainy, it's gorgeous.
Non-data events? How dare you? How dare you? And is it Celsius hot or Fahrenheit hot?
It's I don't do Fahrenheit, so I only know Celsius. I haven't done that data conversion in my head yet.
There you go, and we'll have to build a product for it. I love it. Yeah, in a busy time of year with the data events, and I can understand why you're in so much demand for those. So, last time we talked, it was as part of a research study that you're doing, and I think you were speaking to a large number of data leaders. How many was it you spoke to again? It was a big chunk, right?
Yeah, so I ended up speaking to about 25 to 30. And what it was, just to give it a bit more context on it, is me just having conversations to understand what data leaders are facing, what challenges that they're facing in their organizations, what opportunities they see in the data and AI space, and kind of also some career learnings that they share, like what has helped you get to where you are and what success has really can you speak to. And right now I'm putting together the report on it and hoping to send back to all those leaders, and then I will be sharing elements of that ongoing as the future goes along.
And having spoken to all of those data leaders, it would be rude of me not to ask for a little bit of a scoop. So, like, is there something or a theme that emerged that really kind of surprised you?
I think the biggest theme that surprised me, a lot of it is pretty standard. So the standard stuff I'd say would be like focus on the business value and the business outcomes. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. People are kind of kept up at night by the fact that like they have so much work to convince business stakeholders and the executive of what they're doing. So those kinds of things I expected. The one surprise actually that I found was what people are excited about, what opportunities people see. People did mention AI, but they didn't mention it like agentic AI or MCP. They were like, I'm really excited for AI to help clean our data and improve our data quality. Or I'm excited for AI to improve our BI dashboards and make them a bit more insightful. And like those kinds of things, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Most of these organizations aren't at like the speed of LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn like think that we're way down the line when we're actually like most organizations are way behind that. And this kind of helps reassure what are we actually looking for in new technology and what benefit is that actually going to drive. And for most organizations, it was just using AI to improve the existing stack and the existing infrastructure.
Yeah, AI is I think a real dark horse in the data quality realm in particular, and I think including the human in the loop and using it to make sure that your data's present and high quality and correct and presented the right way, I think is going to be a real cool way of doing it. I'm going to come back to the MCP and agentic stuff, and this is one of my favorite things to hop on about. And I see people using Zapier flows and NAN and whatever else, and don't get me wrong, it's super cool, and I play with these things myself, but like I couldn't be further from wanting to deploy that as part of an enterprise data flow, or an enterprise data architecture. String 7 different platforms together, like with the Zapier string, and then hope that all the APIs stay the same, and hope the Zapier doesn't fall down. It's so wildly off piece to me that that people think that AI might be applied in that way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny. It reminds me of actually something I saw the other day on LinkedIn and about how I think someone asked all these corporate leaders of how many have actually used some of these small AI startups and enacted it in the organizations. And pretty much all of them were like, no, we can't, because compliance issues, security, privacy, all this stuff. So the only area we use AI is in this little small innovation sandbox area that's tightly wrapped and also doesn't get access to the company data. And you realize, yeah, that's the reality, and it's going to be the reality for all this time. So all these companies are getting huge amounts of funding to do this, build these AI models. Their customer base will mostly be startups or small scale companies until they can really prove out their security and all this other stuff and make it tangible for all these organizations. And then you get a lot of organizations not even allowing like Claude or ChatGPT to be used on their laptops because of security risk. It's definitely a difference between the reality and what people talk about on things like LinkedIn or on the internet and the hype out there. It really is such a divergence, and we really have to keep that in mind as we do things and as we move forward.
I think there's a spot where it belongs, and if I was out of college and trying to bootstrap my first ever SaaS platform, and I'd done the hard work, I built a bit of an audience, like I built a bit of community around a problem, and I wanted to bootstrap a SaaS platform, one of those overnight success ones that you see. Like I saw a joke the other day of like, I'm 22 and I built a 9 million monthly revenue platform to teach dolphins how to code. Ask me anything. I read a joke about that, but joking apart, like in the early stage when you're trying to prototype and find product market fit and build something up to test it, like these tools are allowing for incredible advances and for people to get a foothold in the market, which I think if it proves to be a long-standing kind of enterprise scale problem that you want to fit, you can put the proper architecture around it at some point afterwards, as long as you're not running financial information or anything that's highly regulated through there. That's one point I'd make about it. A counterpoint on the GPT and Claude in corporate environments, there's two things that concern me about this. One is that there's a bit of baby in bathwater going on, because the risk we're protecting against is confidential data, be it like personally identifiable information of our customers, or anything that's kind of confidential or crucial to the company's intellectual property. Of course, shouldn't be anywhere near. However, when it comes to marketing and brand, the risk we're mitigating against is, I discuss something with Claude or GPT and it becomes part of this big AI brain and part of its knowledge. Now, if I'm in marketing, all I'm doing all day is talking about how great my products are, how great my company is, what a good place this is to work, how the things we do can change your lives. Like, don't you want that in there?
Yeah, I think it's about kind of realizing what you need it for and how to use it and such like that. And I think you're right. For a small organization, it's just so key, especially on doing certain tasks. I mean, you spoke about my newsletter. I use Claude a lot for my newsletter and a lot for writing. And I think it's accelerated my ability to write these newsletters and do things, especially because a lot of what I write out is outside of my initial domain of expertise. I'm trying to explore and explain the entire data ecosystem. I'm not a data engineer. I'm not a machine learning scientist. I can do a ton of research and write about this stuff. AI helps me do that. I have to do a ton of editing and I have to do a ton of kind of source checking and research and stuff just to make sure it actually lands, because AI is not thinking about this in a more complex or critical way. But it does help me kind of set that benchmark that then I can write out and build on. And I think companies need to learn how to do that internally, because you get two different parts of the coin. Sometimes they just kind of take blindly what AI gives them, and it's not nearly good enough. And you see that with some recent studies out there as well. And then on the other hand, they just kind of don't use AI at all and are missing out on all these efficiency gains. So it really is about kind of knowing how and when to use it and what to use as well.
Yeah, you talked about your newsletters, which I love, and I'm a big fan of your LinkedIn content as well. One of the things I like the most about it is the diagrams that you put together that take really complex, wide-ranging issues or platforms or capabilities and put them into this digestible, kind of easy to understand, nice pastel colored format. Are you using any tools for that? I mean, I've found like the LLMs are generally pretty hopeless at putting diagrams together. What are you? How are you putting that together? Are you crafting it by hand with colored pencils?
No, I don't think I have. I don't think I have that skill set with drawing anymore, so I don't think I could craft that by hand. No, I use a tool called Excalidraw. And it's actually the most asked question I get on the comments of my newsletter and on my LinkedIn messages. So Excalidraw, if you want to sponsor me, I can spread the word even more. But it's really cool because it does makes it more human, right? And that's what frameworks are meant to do. It really gives you a visual guide for a block text of information. And working as a consultant my entire career, that's what we build for clients. We build you a framework that kind of explain difficult to understand concepts or like strategic concepts in a manageable way. Like my favorite one, for example, is like a business strategy temple. I'd always build it as a strategy temple with like the vision at the top, supported by the pillars of like your main initiatives and stuff like that, and then underpinned with the foundation of like your culture or whatever that might be. So for me, building these frameworks helps kind of elucidate some of these complex ideas that exist in data. And I mean, to your point, LLMs aren't good at drawing diagrams, but no offense to the data community, is most data people aren't either. And unless it's like a technical architecture, which is complex. So what I've tried to do is just try to pare it back. And I think that has been one of my differentiators. And I like doing it. It does get hard. I've got this, you should see my Excalidraw. It's got like, I think now over 100 different frameworks, images, all this kind of things. I need to spend like an afternoon just cleaning it up, to be honest. But I enjoy building them because they are kind of helping me. It helps me even understand how to think about these things in more of a strategic way.
You need to spend an afternoon tidying them up and then turning them into a book, Dylan. That's all I reckon.
It might happen. We'll see.
Put me down for the pre-order. So Excalidraw, is it spelled like Excalibur but with draw on the end, or is it? How do you spell it for folks listening who want to find it?
I think it's EXCA. EXCalidraw.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Excalidraw, if you're listening, Dylan needs a referral code fast. I'll put my name down for that too. But those diagrams are excellent. I had played a little bit with Napkin when Napkin first came out. Have you seen?
I think I've seen Napkin.
It got very samey after a while, I think, was my takeaway. It was. I haven't visited it since, and they may have introduced new formats or whatever else. But this is part of the. Going back to the SaaS platforms that we talked about, I'm sure Excalidraw is one of those, right? That was kind of built on early stage AI architecture, kind of blew up, found a product market fit, And these tools have such flexibility, and the cost of entry into the market has got so much lower in terms of both actual cost in dollars as well as technical skill required. So that's why I always ask folks about their favorite AI tools, because everyone's got something different, right? Because there are so many to choose from. Are there any others other than Excalidraw that are favorites of yours?
Well, Excalidraw is not AI. It does have AI powered stuff to create diagrams, but I don't use it because it doesn't deliver the diagrams to the quality
Right.
that I want. The AI ones that I use it's pretty much Claude. I pretty much use Claude just for writing, and I think the ability to upload your own material. So now it kind of even has its own MCP type thing, RAG model embedded in it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's got, okay, this is my writing style, and now I've written 45 different newsletters articles, so it can actually see these are my best ones. I have like them grouped as well. Like these are my data quality ones. These are my kind of architecture and engineering ones. So it gets to know and understand how I think about these topics. So that has helped a lot because it learns from what I've created. So yeah, that, and I guess the other one is a Grammarly. Grammarly is
Yeah.
great for just like catching mistakes that you're gonna inevitably make.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Grammarly as well. Although I think when I first got it, I clicked yes on everything and found that it just sucked the soul and the personality out of all of my writing. So it's a use with caution. So in effect, the LLM becomes a bit of a data set for you, right? So it has 45 pieces of your writing, and then you hinted at this, but I just want to check in. Like, do you then feed in context back in of like how well each one has done, or do you have something set up to monitor that so that it knows which one's hit and which one's less so?
Yeah, so I actually don't upload all of them. I upload my top performing ones and the ones that I felt I wrote really well on. And so it only pulls from probably about 15 to 20. And then I do have those kind of context driven groupings as well, depending on, so this chat, I'll add my data quality ones because I'm writing a bunch of data quality articles or whatever it might be. So that does help a lot. And then, I mean, now with its ability to reach the internet and everything, it does kind of, you can give it, oh, I really like this person's blog or this person's Substack. Please draw from some of their work. Because to be honest, if you leave the LLM on its own, especially like a GPT or Claude or whatever, it just gets the first things that come up on the internet, and it's super generic crap that's written by like, I'm not going to name names, but you can tell that the stuff it pulls from, you can tell even the stuff that it pulls from is probably written by AI. So you really kind of have to be a bit selective of what you're pulling from and be like, okay, I actually want something from this person. So for example, right now I'm writing on data governance, and I really like the Data Governance Playbook, which is a Substack by Charlotte Lideau. And I also know that like Nicola Ascom writes really good stuff on data governance. So I've kind of been pull from their stuff and give me some of their kind of findings because they're really good. So if you can kind of give it more instructions in that way, it does help you kind of corner down the market and saves you a ton of time on research.
It's almost like you're investing in a high quality curated data set for it to operate from. Well, a novel idea. It might catch on. I want to come back to the temple that you talked about, the temple diagrams where you have the business strategy and the data in the middle and the culture at the bottom. Super critical point, as I always say to all of my clients, data and technology, in whatever form you want to say, are never business cases in their own right. They are enablers of a business case. They are vessels through which to deliver a business strategy. What do you do when you start to draw the temple and you find out that the top of the temple isn't very clear? Like, how do you manage that interaction?
It happens way too often. I go to a client and I'm like, what's your strategy? And I'm like, here. And I'm like, that's not really a strategy. That's like a couple KPIs at best. And so I usually actually even include that in a lot of my work, is like, okay, I know we're going to be kind of rejigging, re-looking at your strategy a bit and figure out how data kind of supports it. Luckily, my background is strategy consulting as well. So I have that kind of business sense and that business background. And it's honestly just kind of talking, working with stakeholders, be like, okay, what do you do? Like, how does your organization make money? If you're a private organization, or if you're a public organization, how do you deliver value to your stakeholders?
Yeah.
And then you kind of talk through it. You diagram it out. I have an example of one client that I worked with where I completely kind of, me and my team, we built their business model on a page, and we built it with a data perspective on it. And they're like, wow, this is better than like how we understand our business model. We're going to start using this internally, even for not data reasons. And then I was like, okay, then this is how data supports you, because you're more of a data enabled company, because you're in marketing. And to be good at marketing, you need data to make better decisions and better understand your customers and your audience and stuff like that. And that parallels, so it pulls from the business strategy and then pulls down kind of why data is important to enable that business strategy. And once you start to kind of see that, like people on board, people on all teams get it, right? And that's, you kind of work that in, that's that change management, that buy-in, and you're like, okay, this is how data supports it all. And then you kind of get to, okay, now that we know what we're trying to achieve, now that we know kind of how data might help us achieve that, what do we actually do? And then you get into the use case. Then you get into like, we're going to build this dashboard or this AI tool, or even kind of set up these foundations to support those things. And that's kind of where it becomes a lot more clear. And I think 90% of the companies out there are missing that, because they build to build, and they build just for the sake of it. And even like, I've worked with lots of data analysts and data scientists, and a lot of them are very smart, really good individuals, but they can't necessarily see that because they never actually get the context of the business strategy, and they never understand how data supports that and what the kind of through line is.
Yeah, that makes it harder for them to unleash their brilliance, right, for the benefit of the company that they are supporting in that moment. And I've had very similar experiences to yours as well. Like I often have a joke that you can be in your first couple of days with a client, and you get the question like, "What BI tool are we going to use?" And I'm like, "Oh, but sir, we've only just met." It's very forward of you.
Save it for the third date.
Yeah, very forward of you. And right now, it doesn't matter, right? For all the reasons that you talked about, it's Dylan, is why we've had good conversations before. You and I have similar backgrounds, and the same as you, I enjoy that opportunity to go in and add value from a business and strategy perspective up front, especially when it's necessary before the data work. But in any case, and it's funny how often it boils down to, what is your shared definition of success for this business, and how do you know when you've got there? Like, how are you going to know when you've got there? And sometimes those two seemingly innocuous questions can be really, really powerful ones to ask and pull out. You can help the business get clear on the strategy. You also help the data team, whether they're your team or whether they're the client's data team, get more of a straight line to why and how they're supporting the business, and it helps them then often unearth the insights that are going to make a difference that they wouldn't have thought to position otherwise.
Exactly. That's completely it. And to your point, the first question is always, what tool are we going to use? But it should be like the fourth or fifth or sixth question, because to your point, as long as you know those things, you can use any tool you want to get there. I mean, I don't see, like, there are differences between Tableau and Power BI, or GCP, AWS, and Azure, but like, they're not that important. They're all kind of similar technologies. Like, if you go back 200 years to make a book, a printing press is a printing press, and you're not going to like quibble over what brand of printing press to use. You're going to kind of quibble over, okay, what's the content of the book, of whether I should print it or not. And that's where people should be focusing their attention, and they just don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And my answer is almost often like, the choice of BI tool almost depends more on you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, than it does on me, because it depends, what enterprise tool set you've got. Like, are you a full-on Microsoft shop? Have you like swallowed all the Salesforce Kool-Aid and, bought all of their extensions, and, your elbows deep into Salesforce and using it as your enterprise data warehouse, as well as your CRM, as well as, having it make coffee for you and say good morning to you, everyone, when you get in the office? And, all of the other wonderful things that Salesforce does. Like, if that's you, then Tableau's a great choice, right? Or if you're all in on Copilot and all your backends on Azure and whatever else, then sure, like Power BI is probably going to be free, right? And it does most of what all the other stuff does. So it's yeah, the choice of BI tools, I often refer to it as it's the cherry on the top of the cake. Like, after we've decided what sort of cake we want, whipped all the recipe together, baked it in the oven, cut it in half, added the icing. Like, no, okay, now let's talk about BI tools, right? Because now we've got information that's useful to you, that's well controlled and well governed and automated as much as is sensible, and then we can get somewhere. I talked about similarities that we have in our approach. Like, what threads did you see across the 25 to 30 data leaders that you spoke to? What are kind of non-functional or softer skills do those folks all have in common? CEOs, if you're still making big decisions based on outdated dashboard, conflicting numbers, and manual reports, then you're not leading with confidence. You're not alone. Most 5 million plus businesses have this exact struggle, and your tech stack and platforms feel like they're duct taped together. Worse, every week that goes by, you're still flying blind. And if AI is part of your roadmap, well, you can forget about it, because clean, connected data is step one. So you're still in the starting blocks while others are running ahead of you. That's why we created the free 5-minute data maturity assessment. It's fast, it's free, and it shows you where your business stands and what's holding you back. You'll walk away with a clear score, a snapshot of your current systems, and insight into what it'll take to build a data infrastructure to support your ambition. It's the same approach I've used inside global firms like Capital One, IBM, and Accenture. And now it's adapted for fast-scaling businesses like yours. We've helped executive teams gain clarity, reduce friction, and make better decisions with the data they already have. No giant software overhaul, no disruption to your team, no data science degree required. Also, no magic wand apps that are too good to be true and sell a dream that is effectively only papering over the cracks of structural data issues. This is about giving CEOs real visibility and helping you lead with facts, not friction. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start leading with real data clarity, take our free assessment. It only takes 5 minutes. You'll get immediate insight on your current maturity and just what's possible next. Click below to get started. You've scaled your sales, your operations, your sales team. Now it's time to scale your data. I've led data transformations for some of the world's most complex companies. And now, I help CEOs and leadership teams just like yours turn data into a real advantage. Let's get started.
I think all of them said, when I asked about kind of their success, is really thinking from the business outcomes perspective. I think that was the real through line of how they succeeded and how they got to where they were. A lot of them said, I spent too much time on technical when I was younger. And it wasn't until I started talking to people and becoming best friends with like the CFO and that I really understood what I needed to do. And then the other thing too is their ability to kind of learn to lean on others. I think data, when you start out, although we've got a great community, although everyone talks about being a team sport, it's really an individual kind of contributor role for the most part. And people really have to kind of either learn to become less of an individual contributor and manage people, or share their best practice or do better in documentation to succeed. You're not gonna succeed as an individual because there's just too much to do and there's too much to know. You really have to lean on other skill sets. Like, for example, in my company, I'm the head of data strategy, and I also help run the kind of analytics and data science projects when they come about. And I do lean in on engineering and architecture too, because they have strategic lenses on it. But like if I'm going to a client and I'm talking about a customer data model, which I am right now, I'm going to lean on our principal engineer who has proper software engineering engineering principles in his background, and he's done it all, right? And I learned from him because we kind of complement one another. So it really is a team sport, and I think data leaders who succeed get that. And you really need to kind of leverage some of these things to grow in your career as a data person. Otherwise, you're just gonna be stuck being an individual contributor, and you'll be expendable at some point.
Yeah, I blame the software engineers. You know, like this, the period we went through in the maybe I think 2018 through 2021, when the unicorn full stack software engineer was the most sought after animal on the planet, and they were writing their own paychecks and wherever else, wherever they wanted to go. And I wonder how much of a myth that actually was as well. Like, can anyone really have both the breadth and the depth of front end, back end integration, data, all the things that you need to be that unicorn? Maybe the occasional exceptional few do. And maybe that kind of bled across to the world of data and lured people down a path that probably wasn't the best one.
Yeah, I mean, I could see people being a unicorn, but I think that existed a lot more 5 years ago when the data ecosystem wasn't as complex as it is now. Now, like to run something and productionize something, you need to have like really good experience, not to, run your bill up super high. Like, like you want to actually build this in a way that's scalable and well built and efficient. You need to lean into certain areas of experience, and just so many organizations don't do this. And like, maybe I'm speaking from being a consultant, and I want you all to buy me and my services as a consultant. But in the truth of the matter is they're throwing away money because they're hiring more and more resources to manage poorly built data models and data infrastructure and data pipelines. Meanwhile, they're paying Snowflake or Databricks a ton of money because those are built inefficiently. And then they're saying, no, we don't have enough money to like rebuild this strategically. And like, well, your long-term gain and savings will actually probably outstrip what you're going to pay up front to do this properly. But organizations don't get that. They're quite reactive in this nature. You really have to push them to do that. And I think that expertise needs to be put more on a pedestal in the data world, because we get so bogged down with really poorly built pipelines, really poorly built code, and it ruins efficiency. It ruins the value of data across organizations. And we as an industry have never put a stop to it.
Yeah. And what's unhelpful to people like you and I is that there are shops out there who will come in and slap a nice looking automation layer or a nice looking dashboard layer on top of like fundamentally broken data infrastructure, charge a bunch of money for it, and then they're going to walk away and pop the champagnes and go on to the next one.
100%.
I've been through the hard sell that you've been through. Like I go to all the effort of making sure I put into detailed project plans so that clients can see, including non-technical clients, like this is how much we have to invest in EC2 efficiency. Like this is where we're doing our rehydration. This is how we're allocating resources. This is when we're shutting machines off and turning them back on again in an automated way to save what might seem like a small amount of money, but like over 365 days is actually quite a lot of money, and that you can invest somewhere else. So that efficiency, and the second was the automated DQ checks, data quality checks. Sorry for those. I always slip into acronyms. The automated data quality checking takes quite a lot of investment, because not only do you have to learn a client's business, but you have to learn the specific nuances, sometimes at a field and column level, of like, where might this go off? Like, or what would a fail scenario look like for this data? And then run it and fix it. And you and I both know that's not like, oh, let's press a switch and turn data quality on. Like the understanding you need is deeper, and then as you say, the engineering skills you need to actually implement that in a way which is going to stand the test of time for where the business is now and where the business is going. Yeah, so I will swear the oath with you today, Dylan, to represent that stuff and shout louder about it. Maybe I'll draw an Excalidraw. Who knows?
Well, yeah, and to build on that and be quick on it, but like, I think there's two big issues to it. One, I think it touched to what you were saying initially of like just poor delivery. And like, I recently with a client, we were building them a kind of single customer view, and we built them the first phase. And I said, like, we're not going to continue because we need to build a customer data model first, because none of your sources talk to each other.
Yep.
And so we kind of put a pause on that and like cut revenue out of what I could sell, to then say, and now we're kind of spinning up. I mean, I'm part of the customer data model as well, but like, we need to make sure that we're doing this right if we're going to do it all. And I don't think enough consultancies, I don't think enough people have the cojones to actually say that and follow through with it. I think a lot of, I mean, this is why I don't work for a large consultancy, but a lot of large consultancies ship it out to offshore or near shore and say like, let's just build this stuff. And then it completely doesn't work. And then companies have to redo it all over again. So I have a really big problem with that because I see it all over. The second thing, I think, to what you were saying, the data quality stuff, and we do rely too much on tools and technologies to do a lot of these things. And when we also, from a data perspective, when we do a technical implementation, or when we think about new technologies to do these types of things, we never think about it strategically. I have not once seen a company with a technology strategy, which is terrifying. It's actually my most engaged and most popular article in the data ecosystem newsletter. People loved it because they're like, oh my gosh, let's think about technology strategically. That's smart. I'm like, yeah, it's what you should probably be doing at the same time if you're going to invest like millions of dollars into this. But to think about technology strategically, you're able to plan, okay, what are we going to be doing in the future? What use cases do we actually need to deliver on this? And how does technology support that? And if we're thinking about, for example, DQ, let's set our standards for these different and definitions for these different quality metrics and different parts of our business and KPIs before we invest in this observability tool. But companies don't do that, and it annoys the hell out of me. I'm still pretty young, but like as soon I'm getting older by the amount I deal with this stuff and just kind of bang my head against the wall when I see this stuff happen. So
Yeah, I used to think that older people were cynical until I became one and realized it's a badge that you earn through experience. This again, good. They're good. Hopefully in London they've taught you the stiff upper lip mentality. Keep calm and carry on, right? Keep calm and keep plugging on. The example that I've seen a number of times and see out there is CRM implementations, or folks will come and say, oh, what we need is a CRM, because as you say, like what they actually want is that single customer view that you were talking about building for that client. They actually want a single customer view so they can see the touch points. And like in some cases, and I have actually said this, like I could implement a CRM, but you have no way to connect what your customers are doing here with what they're doing here with what they're doing here. So like it's really of no value to you until you fix this problem. Like you can put all the data in one place all you like, but if you haven't got any sort of key to join it, then there's going to be no value on there. And yet there are countless companies out there that would merrily charge whatever they charge to go and recommend HubSpot and roll it out and all its modules and monthly costs and whatever else, without delivering that business value. So I'm definitely seeing that walking that bridge is the critical place to be.
Yeah no, I see that too. And and the other issue with that too is those CRM tools or the ERPs or whatever they are, they're essential for the lifeblood of the organization, to the day-to-day on some of these things, but they don't sit in the data team. No one asks the data team how they should set it up, how they should use it, how it should kind of talk with other tools and systems and stuff like that. But at a certain point, they do get annoyed, those teams, because, wait, this CRM tool doesn't do what Salesforce told me it was going to do.
Yes, yeah. I was sold a dream.
Yeah, I thought everything was connected and would work seamlessly with one another. It's like, no, you have to set up those APIs and connect it to your Power BI dashboards or your whatever. But then, I mean, and I'm not digging on Salesforce right now, but then Salesforce account managers will be coming, well, actually, you can do that if you buy an upgrade to Data Cloud.
Yes. They're just doing their jobs, yeah.
They're really good at it. Salesforce is in every company I work with, to be honest, and it's a great piece of technology. But companies are buying these things and think it does all without thinking, oh, you actually have to think about it strategically about why I'm using this and how to use it better. And I think Salesforce account reps also want you to think about that stuff too, and so do other SaaS companies and vendors. because that makes you use it more.
And I've heard it said of like, when we get this new CRM, then the quality of data the sales team are putting in will improve. But yeah, absolutely not. Like that's another CRM thing I've walked away from. Like, until your sales team starts putting good data into the front of this, like nothing good is going to happen.
CRM doesn't it doesn't replace free text input.
It's oh yeah, just type what you want. Interestingly, I was at the I mentioned this on LinkedIn a couple of weeks back, but I was at the Alex Hormozi's scaling workshop, and he actually went off on one about CRMs. It was interesting, and it was his perspective that for growing companies, the founder should always be heavily involved in at least some sort of leadership role of any CRM implementation. He's talking about companies in kind of growth stage that reach a point where it's time to start with a CRM, but he said he'd made the mistake himself before of like, if you hand it off to just tech, whether that's a data team or not, I didn't check or clarify, but if you hand it off to just tech and then the founder doesn't become involved, it almost always fails and has to be redone, because there's nobody injecting business context. Like if you're just setting up for an ideal scenario, which may or may not exist, or may not be the right thing for any particular business.
Yeah, you get an expensive Rolodex.
Yeah, there you go. That's a nice way of putting it. Expensive Rolodex that one day might connect into a warehouse and do some amazing AI things for you. There's agents though. Don't worry, there's agents. Anyway, so I'm showing my age with all this cynicism, Dylan. I'm very wary of it. Tell me about the story of how you grew the newsletter to 7,000 subscribers. A very impressive thing. How long have you been doing it for? And what data have you collected about the newsletter and about your subscribers and potential subscribers along the way that's enabled you to be so successful with it?
So I launched a newsletter last April. I kind of built up to it. I got a head start, wrote like at least 4 or 5 articles, said, okay, this can be a weekly thing. I'm going to keep it 5 minutes. It is not kept to 5 minutes. It's usually now between 10 and 15 minutes, but that's because trying to explain each data domain takes its toll and takes its time. But I really kind of leveraged what I had built on LinkedIn, and I share now all my LinkedIn content. And full story is I've been on LinkedIn since kind of, I think January 22. So it's been over 3 years now. And after a couple of years, I was really tired of LinkedIn, because I mean, LinkedIn's great, but you're just sharing short quippet stuff, and the stuff that does really well on LinkedIn, it doesn't really add value anymore. Like you see so many selfie pictures or like random stuff about people's personal lives, and you're like, that doesn't really it's not educational. And
Yeah.
I was kind of getting tired of that. I'm like, I want to write something about what is data strategy, or what is data engineering? What does it mean? Why do people care about it? And I want to learn about it too in the process. So that's why I launched my newsletter. And when I launched it, I leveraged LinkedIn. So I share kind of my different infographics on LinkedIn, and then kind of pieces from the article. So it actually, my long form content now drives all my short form content, and I don't have to create new posts for LinkedIn. So it helps in that way. And I think just kind of that exposure on LinkedIn has built up the newsletter. People see and finally realize that, oh, this isn't just made for LinkedIn. This is actually from a newsletter. Oh, this is actually a long form piece. Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to read it all. That has kind of built the following from what it was 0 and over a year ago, and now it's about 7,500. And I think the thing that I've really taken away from it is a lot of people can launch a newsletter, and everybody has nowadays. You have to kind of make sure it has a niche and it has a certain level of quality to it to do well. And that's where I've really kind of put my foot down. Like, I want to make sure it's a certain quality point for me to put out. Otherwise, I'm not going to put it out. And I think that has helped the growth, because people recognize, okay, this is really explaining a problem that I see, or I don't quite understand. And there's still a lot of people who comment to me in person. They're like, oh, I really love your LinkedIn posts. Like the diagrams are so interesting. I'm like, do you know those come from a newsletter? They're like, no, I had no idea. I'm like, oh, come on. So,
with even fuller explanations and even better diagrams.
I know. I'm like, you can read the whole article on it. There's a lot more. But it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot about different data domains and how they cut across to one another. And I think to what you said earlier, there might be a book coming out at some point that kind of brings it all together. And that's really my end goal of this, is to bring together the data ecosystem into one book. And I've definitely written enough words from the newsletters,
Sure
so
thing.
it's going to be a heck of a time editing that and bringing it together and kind of probably updating it and synthesizing that. But I think it's something that doesn't exist out there. There's no book out there that's like, this is what data is and this is how to think about it and why it matters at an overall kind of perspective. So yeah, that's my long-winded rant on that.
First on the list for an autographed pre-order copy of that one.
I got you.
I love it, and there's an interesting data point as well that I've observed. You know, I have a newsletter that I pull out of this podcast. Like, this is my long form content here, right? And I love doing it because I find it easier to speak than I do to write. Although tools like Whisperflow make that easier in any format now as well. But the interesting thing, and just first to address your point on LinkedIn, like, people behave in a way that people respond to what the algorithm rewards. I'm really interested to see how LinkedIn takes this video thread that it's obviously hitting super hard right now. I mean, they've got all the marketing people on there. They put someone on Stephen Bartlett's podcast just to talk about it. Like, that must have cost a fortune. So I'm interested to see where it goes. Because interestingly, even with all the AI technology that I'm sure LinkedIn has available to them, it's harder for them to understand, like, straight off the bat, what a 15-minute talking head video is about compared to a 15 second talking head video compared to a 15-second post. So interesting to see how they reward that and how that advances. But the advantage you have in Substack, again, no surprise here because it's you, is a big data advantage, because you now have a super list of 7,500 people and you own that email list, and you can take that with you anywhere you go. Like, you can't even get your connections email list out of LinkedIn, never mind people who interact with your content. So that's again, credit to you for building what's a super valuable list. I'll give you $5 for a copy of it.
Don't worry, I'm not selling any subscriptions. So if anyone subscribes off of this, I'm not going to bother selling your email.
Just my attempt at a bit of British sarcasm is still in. It's still in there somewhere. Still in there somewhere. All right, so we covered so much today. So we covered your study. We'll start to see that come out in diagram form and newsletter form as we go on. We covered the importance of connecting data to the business strategy, and I know you said all those leaders had that in common, but so many folks don't do it. You know, you have my commitment to keep treading the good path and providing high value data consultancy and analytics consultancy out there. Along the way, we've learned how, and you've definitely got some amazing British humility going on there. Like, building a newsletter to 7,500 in just over a year is a spectacular achievement. So it deserves all the credit, and folks can find the data ecosystem newsletter on Substack, as I hopefully pointed them towards, and find you on LinkedIn. But so we covered so much today. I'm really grateful for you coming on. I'll look forward to getting the industry report when you put it out from all those interviews, and seeing what you share from that. Where else can folks find you? What should folks look out for? What's your one hope and dream for the future of data, by means of signing off?
Where people can find me. So thanks for all that. Yeah, good wrap up as well. Where folks can find me is LinkedIn and Substack. Those are my only two channels. I don't have time for Twitter. I hate Instagram. I don't use Facebook. And I would like to use Medium more, but I just don't have time to port everything across. Maybe one day. And then I also don't use YouTube because I don't like going on camera or posting selfies. So I'm fine for the odd podcast and everything. But
I'm even more grateful for you coming on.
But the data ecosystem on Substack is my main thing, where my main thought leadership content is coming out. And what do I hope for the future of data? That's a great question. I think what I hope for is people to just be more strategic about it and to think more about the big picture and to think more holistically, because, like, I'm going to get cynical quite soon just based off how many mistakes we are constantly remaking and making over again and making over again. And AI is not going to be the aha moment. It's going to take a while for us to get there. And so we'll see. We'll see when that happens, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I guess if it does happen, I'm probably out of a job, so maybe I don't want it to happen so much.
Well, you and everybody else, right? You and everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Keep rocking it, Dylan. I love the. I'll go have a look at Excalidraw now, and I'll keep enjoying the newsletter. And while you keep going to 4Data events every week, it's only a matter of time before we have to cross paths in person. So I will look forward to that day whenever it arrives.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much, Graham. It's been great.
All right, take care, man. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Transformed with Data. If today's conversation gave you even one insight, one aha moment, or one new idea to take action on, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who's ready to level up. Until next time, keep asking the right questions, keep challenging the status quo, and keep transforming with data.